number one, the elements in which of these sets have chemical properties that are most similar? Okay, so chemical properties and most similar, these are, when I'm looking at properties, I know that I need to look into groups, and groups go up and down. Say they go up and down, and there are 18 groups on the periodic table. So I'm going to find, if I look at these, and potassium is in group 1, calcium is in group 2, and so this is going to be already wrong. The next one, oxygen, is in group 16. Sulfur is in group 16, and selenium is in 16, so I like this one. Just to be on the safe side, I want to keep going. Sodium is in group 1, calcium group 2, and so that one's out. Phosphorus is in group 15, sulfur is in group 16, and chlorine is in 17. So the correct one, similar properties, because groups are known as families, is going to be B. Number 2, when trying to identify an unknown element, a scientist determines what other elements the element reacts with chemically. Which property of the unknown elements determines the other elements that it reacts with? Okay, so reacts with chemically is my big key word here. So anytime you see this word reacts, and then you need to think of valence electrons. So because it's the valence electrons that have to do with reactivity, the quicker they can get to 8. So number of neutrons, that has nothing to do with it. Number of particles in the nucleus, nothing to do with it. Number of protons, that determines the identity, and the number of electrons of the unknown element. So
okay, number 3. Based on the periodic table, which of the following elements has properties most like sodium? As we said earlier, the chemical properties come from the groups. The elements in the same groups are going to have the same chemical properties, and the groups go up and down. So we want to find the element that is in the same group as sodium. Sodium is in group 1. So over here we're looking, lithium is also in group 1, so that one looks good. Carbon is in group 4, so that is not it. Chlorine is in group 7, that is not going to, or 17 and 14. And then helium, of course, is over there with the noble gases in group 18. The only one that's in group 1 is A. Number 4, the arrangement of the periodic table can be interpreted in many ways. The periods on the periodic table of elements determine. Periods are going horizontal, and we already determined that the elements in the same period have the same number of electron shells. The number of protons in elements, no, that does not. The atomic number determines the protons in element, and the protons of an element. The number of energy levels an element contains. The number of neutrons an element contains, no, that comes from the mass. And the number of valence electrons an element contains, no, that is what the groups tell us. The groups tell us the valence electrons, not the periods. The periods tell us how many energy levels or shells.
During an investigation, a student needs to find an element that is a semiconductor, so that's a good one, and has properties of both metals and nonmetals. Okay, so already, hopefully you know that a metalloid is a semiconductor, meaning that it can conduct heat and electricity at specific times. Not as great as metals, but not as bad as nonmetals. So metalloids are found along the stair step over here. So that is going to be in our section number 2. Plus, it says so on our little thing right up there in the little key. All right. Number 6, a student is studying calcium, a highly reactive element that humans need for strong bones. So I'm going to look right here. Calcium, that's in group 2. Highly reactive, that's true because it just has to lose its 2. Which characteristic of calcium is most closely related to its chemical reactivity? Okay, so chemical reactivity, again, anytime you think of reactivity, you need to think of valence electrons. The 20 protons, that determines its identity. The density, this has nothing to do with its chemical reactivity. The atomic mass, that's just its protons plus its neutrons. and it's the valence electrons because these are the ones that are responsible for bonding. So D. Number 7, what is the mass number of a potassium atom that has 20 neutrons? Okay, in order to find mass, we take our protons plus our neutrons equals mass. Potassium is number 19. It's atomic number 19, so I know it has 19 protons. And it's telling us it has 20 neutrons. So my mass number, 19 plus 20, is going to be 39. So that is D.
Okay, number 8. The atoms of a certain element each contain 11 protons and 1 valence electron. 11 protons, that is the ID of the atom. We go to the periodic table. We know that sodium is the only one with 11 protons. Its atomic number is 11. And it's also in group 1, which tells us that it has 1 valence electron. Which statement correctly identifies the element and describes its reactivity? Well, we've already discovered the element is sodium because it has 11 protons, so B and D are going to be out. Since it has 1 valence electron, it very easily gives away that 1 valence electron, so it will be very reactive. And A says the element is sodium and it's highly reactive. Element is sodium and not very reactive, so A is going to be your correct answer. Number 9, the table below lists 3 characteristics of an atom of an element. Number of protons, that's going to be our ID. The number of neutrons, these two together, is going to give us the mass. And number of valence electrons, that is the reactivity. An atom of which element is described by the data in the table. Really, the only number that we need to identify the atom is going to be number 37. We go to the periodic table, and rubidium is number 37. So C is going to be our answer.
Number 10, 4 students were asked to name the parts of an atom that determine the atom's identity and chemical properties. The students' responses are shown in the table below. Okay, so just like we've said before, parts of the atom that determine the identity is always going to be the protons. The neutrons help it in its mass. Valence electrons help its reactivity. And the electron cloud, that's just there basically so the electrons can bond. So over here, protons, and we know reactivity, those are valence electrons. So the correct answer is going to be student number 2. Number 11, how many protons, neutrons, and electrons are present in an atom of hafnium? HF with a mass number of 178. Okay, so already, just by knowing what you know, and without even looking at the periodic table, we know that atomic number is equal to the number of protons and the number of electrons. So protons and electrons are always equal. So which of these are equal? So this one's not equal here, 72 and 106. This one's equal, 72, 72. 178 protons, 72 electrons, and these are equal. So these two can be eliminated. Now we can look at the periodic table. We're looking for hafnium, so I'm just going to go to number 72, and that is hafnium. Number 106 is, what is 106? SG, whatever that is, I can't see. Okay, so the correct answer here is going to be B. Number 12, what is the name and charge for structure C? So structure C is right here. It is in an energy level, or what another word for an energy level is an electron, is the electron cloud. So right there, that should clue you in as to what is in here. This is an electron. Over here inside the nucleus is our protons and our neutrons. So this is an electron. These are the bad guys, so they don't let them in. So it is an electron. The protons are in the nucleus, also in the nucleus, and in the nucleus. So the only thing outside of that energy level or shell or electron cloud are the electrons.
Okay, number 13. Which of the following atoms has the least amount of mass? We know that all the mass of the atom comes from the nucleus. So all we have to do is count the objects in the nucleus of each of these atoms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This one has a mass of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the question is, which one has the least amount of mass? It is going to be D. It has the fewest things inside its nucleus. Okay, number 14. Element R and element Q have the same number of valence electrons. These elements both have similar chemical behavior, but element R has fewer energy levels than element Q. We know that the periods on the periodic table tell us the energy levels. So we know that this element is going to be on 1, 2, 3 on the third row going across. This one will be on 1, 2, 3, the fourth row going across. They are going to be in the same group up and down because they both have the same number of valence electrons. So which statement best describes the position of these two elements on the periodic table? A, the two elements are in the same period. No, they're not going to be in the same period because they don't have the same number of shells. Letter B, the two elements are side by side in the same period with element Q to the left. Again, they're not in the same period, otherwise they would have the same number of shells. Letter C, the two elements are in the same group. Yep, we already determined they both have 2 valence electrons, so they are in the second group, with element R being just above element Q. Element R, yes, is in period 3, and we determined element Q is in period 4. Right now, C looks very good. Just to be safe, letter D, the two elements are in the same group, okay, with element Q at the top of the group and element R at the bottom. No, they are going to be one on top of the other because element Q just has 1 additional electron shell. So our correct answer is C.
Number 15, the model of an atom is shown below. Which element is represented by this model? So really easily, guys, because protons equals electrons, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 count our electrons, and that means also 5 protons. I look on the periodic table, that's carbon. I'm sorry, boron. Carbon is 6, neon is 10, sodium has 11. The periodic table is organized into groups and periods. The characteristics of a certain group of elements are listed below. So we're looking at shiny, already thinking metal, solid at room temperature, atoms of 2 valence electrons. So that tells me that I'm in group 2. I come over here, lithium is in group 1, strontium is in group 2, aluminum is in group 13, and silicon is in group 14, so strontium is my answer.
In the early 1900s, many scientists thought that an atom consisted of a positive substance with a negative charge scattered through the substance. Then Ernest Rutherford completed an experiment that changed the concept of the atom. His discovery led to the understanding that the atom consists mostly of empty space with A, protons orbiting. No, we know the protons are in the nucleus, so we can already get rid of A. B, electrons orbiting. We know that they are orbiting. Do they orbit a dense nucleus made of protons and neutrons? Right now, that looks pretty good. Letter C, neutrons and protons orbiting. No, the only orbiting particle is the electron. And D, electrons and protons orbiting. Again, protons are in the nucleus, so B is our answer. Number 18, if you said a dartboard was to model an atom and you were to hit the bullseye, which particles would you hit? Well, the bullseye in a dartboard is going to be in the center, which would represent the nucleus. We know that the protons and the neutrons are what are in the nucleus. So which ones would we be hitting? We would be hitting the protons or the neutrons. Number 19, an atom has 32 protons, 41 neutrons, and 32 electrons. What is the charge of the atom's nucleus? We know that the protons and the neutrons are the only 2 particles inside the nucleus. We know protons are positive, neutrons have no charge at all, so the charge of just the nucleus is going to be plus 32.
And lastly, number 20, I have 3 valence electrons. So right now, valence electrons tells me that I am in group 13, because that's the one that has 3A. And 4 energy levels. So 4 energy levels, I know that that's going to be in period 4. I look on my periodic table, and my correct answer is going to be gallium. Okay, guys, so all corrections are going to be due on Friday. That's November the 30th with a parent signature. In order to get any credit, you must complete all of the corrections, whether you got it correct or not. So you must have all of what we've written on here, whether you got it correct or not.